key of nature's change. So he's come up to the planes of life and now to the higher life, where it's aspiring towards something higher, feels the presence of a higher force from above, but can't yet quite catch it, can't quite manifest it, but it feels it, and it's searching for it. And Sri Aurobindo in this canto not only describes this realm, this world of the higher life, but also the beings there, and also how this world manifests in part in our world, how it influences us. So all of those things are described in this canto. Last time, we read a little passage that kind of encapsulates maybe the character of this world, just on page 186. I don't have the line number, but it's about eight or nine lines down from the top. He says, there, that is in this world of the higher life, matter is the soul's result and not its cause. In a contrary balance to earth's truth of things, the gross weighs less, the subtle counts for more. On inner values hangs the outer plan. As quivers with the thought the expressive word, as yearns the act with the passion of the soul, this world's apparent sensible design looks vibrant back to some interior light, interior might. So we see that it has this closer connection with the soul, the inner being, and represents that more faithfully than we can do in our world, where there is a greater mixture of different forces at play and also a greater predominance of the inertia of physical matter. So we're drawn outwards towards the outer life, towards outer appearances of matter around us. In this world, it leans more on the inner soul, on the inner values, giving expression to those. But we've seen that those values can also be negative. They can be positive, yearning towards the divine, or they can be expressing some darker forces of life, egoistic forces. So I think we begin then on page 187 at line 505. And Helmut, would you like to start?
There beat a throb of living interchange. Being felt being even when afar, and consciousness replied to consciousness. And yet the ultimate oneness was not there. There was a separateness of soul from soul. An inner wall of silence could be built, an armor of conscious might protect and shield. The being could be closed in and solitary, one could remain apart in self alone. Identity was not yet no union's peace. All was imperfect, still, half known, half done. The miracle of inconscience overpassed, the miracle of the superconscious still, unknown, self-wrapped, unfelt, unknowable, looked down on them, origin of all they were. As forms they came of the formless infinite, as names lived of a nameless eternity.
Thank you. Here, Sri Aurobindo describes the relations and interchanges between the beings in this world, and we see that they have a closer connection than we do here in our world. They can communicate more directly from one consciousness to another. But still, he says, there was some kind of independence, that they could remain within themselves alone. It wasn't so fluid that they could just always be open to other beings there and their forces and their communications. They could also retreat into themselves if they wanted. And also he says that identity was not yet, nor union's peace. So they still don't have an identification, a complete identification with other beings there, don't necessarily feel them as part of themselves, or feel that oneness, but still there is this closer communication and interchange that's possible. He says the miracle of inconscience was overpassed. That dividing principle that really cuts us off from other beings and the world around us, that was overpassed. There was this more fluid interchange going on with all around, but still there's not that identity, the miracle of the superconscient, still, that is unmoving, unknown, self-wrapped, unfelt, unknowable, looked down on them, origin of all they were. So that superconscient was still above, looking down on them. Maybe they sense its presence more directly. As forms they came of the formless infinite, as names lived of a nameless eternity. Again expressing that the inner being, the inner reality is more prominent, and the forms there, the beings there, are giving expression to that. As happens here as well, but the expression here is not so direct, it's more easily disguised, diverted, deformed. So we continue, Margaret. Oh, maybe you would like to read next? The beginning and the end.
The beginning and the end were there occult. A middle term worked and explained, abrupt. There were words that spoke to a vast wordless truth. There were figures crowding an unfinished sum. None truly knew himself or knew the word, or the reality living there enshrined. Only they knew what mind could take and build out of the secret supermind, huge store. A darkness under them, a bright void above, uncertain they lived in a great climbing space. By mysteries they explain a mystery, a riddling answer met the riddle of things. As he moved in this ether of ambiguous life, himself was soon a riddle to himself. As symbols, he saw all and sought their sense.
Thank you. In the beginning here, he's, in a sense, going back to this idea of the miracle of the inconscience overpast the miracle of the superconscient, still unknowable, still above, looking down on them. So they're moving in this middle realm between these two extremes, and as a result, there's not a fullness of understanding or a fullness of being. In some ways, there's not a fullness of manifestation like we have in the physical world, or it's not such a physical form and manifestation that they have. Also, it's more fleeting in a sense. It's not as stable as it is here in our world. But still, what he's especially emphasizing is that the understanding, the knowledge, the full experience of the Spirit is still elusive to them. They sense it, they feel it perhaps underneath, behind the forms, the objects that they encounter in their world, but they can't quite grasp what it is. And in a sense, this last line, as symbols he saw all and sought their sense. So the beings, but here now he's speaking of Aswapati, he senses some kind of presence of the divine behind all the forms, all the activities of this world. The reality behind it's expressing itself through these forms, but he can't still completely grasp it. They are symbols of some deeper reality, but he has to try to decipher what those symbols mean and represent. They're not quite clear. And in this next section that comes, all of this is expressed in much more detail. This idea of everything there being symbolic of some deeper realities, expressing some inner presence, but not expressing it completely, but more in a disguised form. And the next section, it's actually quite difficult and mysterious to understand because he's expressing this mysterious character of this world where everything is kind of symbolic, but not fully expressing what it is that's being symbolized, the reality behind. And Aswapati is trying to ascertain that, to discover what is that meaning behind all of these things. And he's searching for that.
Can you explain how a little bit about that this line himself pursued the real himself? Can speak a little bit more about the person?
Yeah, I think it's that everything that he's experiencing now as he's going through this world becomes like a riddle, becomes a kind of mysterious symbol of some deeper reality. And so it's even the case with himself, but it's also the case with everything that he encounters around him and the beings he encounters.
What seems to be so interesting is this is the first time that Aswapati got caught. He was always the observer, telling you these beings are like this. Now he himself has got caught in the same problem. Don't you think? I don't know. And then he tries to get out of the problem.
Yeah, that it seems to suggest that here, that he's also kind of caught by it and unable to completely stand back in himself in a way. So we'll continue. Margaret, would you like to read now? At the break.
So very well. I don't know where we have been. Yeah? Yeah?
At the break.
I did. Okay. I have to. Across the leaping springs of death and birth, and over shifting borders of soul change, a hunter on the spirit's creative track, he followed in life's fine and mighty trails, pursuing her sealed formidable delight in a perilous adventure without close. At first no aim appeared in those large steps, only the wide source he saw of all things here, looking towards a wider source beyond. For as she drew away from earthly lines, a tenser drag was felt from the unknown. A higher context of delivering thought drove her towards marvel and discovery. There came a high release from pettier cares, a mightier image of desire and hope, a vaster formula, a greater scene.
Thank you. That's quiet. So we're given a kind of introduction to this, let's say, new realm in which Aswapati is entering here, this more mysterious realm. And as he's traveling, he's moving away further from Earth's lines. Let's say those are the similarities with our world, and moving closer towards the origin, towards the spirit. Only the wide source he saw of all things here, looking towards a wider source beyond. So he's moving in a sense towards this source. And as he drew away from earthly lines, a tenser drag was felt from the unknown. So it's as if the origin, the divine, is pulling him more towards itself. And there's a higher context of delivering thought. So he's entering into a greater knowledge. Drove her towards marvel and discovery. So as we see, as he goes in this direction, things become more mysterious, more marvelous. And there came a high release from pettier cares, and a mightier image of desire and hope, a vaster formula, a greater scene. He's moving away from the little pursuits of life towards greater aims, towards greater discovery and greater being. Nitya, would you continue?
Ever she circled towards some far-off light. Her signs still covered more than they revealed, but tied to some immediate sight and will, they lost their purport in the joy of use, till stripped of their infinite meaning, they became a cipher gleaming with unreal sense. Armed with a magical and haunted bow, she aimed at a target kept invisible, and ever deemed remote, though always near. As one who spells illumined characters, the key book of a crabbed magician text, he scanned her subtle, tangled, weird designs, and the screened, difficult theorem of her clues, traced in the monstrous sands of desert time, the thread beginnings of her Titan works, watched her charade of action for some hint, read the no gestures of her silhouettes, and strove to capture in their burdened drift the dance fantasia of her sequences, escaping into rhythmic mystery, a glimmer of fugitive feet on fleeing soil.
Thank you. Sri Aurobindo refers to she throughout this section and also he. She here is this life energy. Shraddhavan calls her the life goddess. And he in this section is Aswapati. So this life force, this life goddess, is circling towards some far-off light. She's expressing through signs something of the spirit, something of coming from that light, but her signs still covered more than they revealed. And he says, but tied to some immediate sight and will, they lost their purport in the joy of use. It suggests that the forms become tied to their outer use and appearance. And the deeper significance behind them, of which they are symbolic in a sense, still recedes and is remote. So they lost their purport, their meaning, in the joy of use, till stripped of their infinite meaning, they became a cipher, a zero, a void, gleaming with unreal sense. So the form is still gleaming, is still kind of vibrating with that deeper significance, but the significance itself is lost. And then, armed with a magical and haunted bow, she aimed at a target kept invisible and ever deemed remote, though always near. So in a sense, this life force is striving to find this deeper significance, this spirit, but she senses it as being far away. And then he refers to Asopati. Well, I think we can think of it in perhaps most easily in our own terms, that we often will seek for the divine as if it is far away, as if it is something very remote, very high. But yet, it's the reality of who we are. It's always there. But we're always looking outside as if it's in some remote high philosophy but it's the very substance, the very being of ourselves. So in a sense, also this life force in this realm is like that. It's always kind of seeking to embody some far-off light, but it's unable to really hold it, to grasp it. It's always looking away somewhere else for it.
And then we get so distracted by the joy of use.
Yeah.
And then we lose it.
You get distracted by the forms, the appearances.
But then you think he's saying these occult kind of texts, try to give it, and that's why he's gaining all of that stuff, inefficient stuff.
Yeah, it's now he's kind of looking into all of these forms and trying to understand what they're symbolizing, but they're all very mysterious and they're kind of hiding their deeper significance.
But where does he say that the forms have come in? I didn't find any word seen after you said this. There's a form next. But here in this text, I don't see he's referring to some form. He's just referring to the light, I think. And how it is trying to decipher things.
But okay, for her signs,
yes.
Her signs still covered more than they revealed. So what are these signs?
It's a sign. There are no forms according to me in this realm.
But a sign is a form, no?
Yeah, but symbol can be for so many forms, so many souls, let's say. He's talking about light, which is a symbol can be of different things. Like one symbol is kind of visible, but it's not a particular form like we are a form. I think he's not referring to that form there in any abstract way also. Consciousness also, I think. It's just life means something, some symbol, and he's trying to decipher it.
Okay.
General life, according to me, is the word form anywhere for the symbol. Anyway, that's mine.
Okay.
I didn't understand.
So he's trying to read something.
Weird designs, they're forms, and the theorem, they're all forms.
As one who spells illumined characters, the key book of a crabbed magician text, he scanned her subtle, tangled, weird designs. So it's as if he's trying to read this magician's textbook. And sometimes these magic books, they have like these illumined characters. Maybe some of the characters are even painted in bright colors and things. And then some of the text is it's crabbed. It's all small writing, all very close together, hard to decipher. And maybe even the characters take on these weird designs, or there might be figures drawn there that are strange, symbolic pictures. So he's trying to read this world in that way. The screen difficult theorem of her clues, traced in the monstrous sands of desert time. You know, if we think of Sri Aurobindo also was trying to decipher, in a sense, the meaning of our existence, right? And some of that meaning was lost in the Vedas, in these ancient texts, in the lost ages of Earth's history. And he's trying to read those different things to find the significance of our life, of our existence. To some extent, that's a reflection here in our world of what is here in this world. The thread beginnings of her Titan works, those early beginnings like the Vedas or these ancient mysteries. Watched her charade of action for some hint, read the no gestures of her silhouettes. Now this no gestures, especially with this character over the O, represents something from Japanese theater, in which actors mime gestures to indicate a story. So this is from Japanese theater, in which actors mime gestures. They play out different gestures without words to indicate a story. So, and maybe they're even silhouetted, maybe like shadows with the light behind. So he's trying to read the significance of this world as if there are these silhouettes playing out some deeper significance, and he's trying to read that story and strove.
If you ever see any of those no dramas, it's really hard to figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
Because they're, it's all in slow motion with weird noises and very specialized movements. So he really caught it there. It's a really good image.
So he strove to capture in their burdened drift, that is, their movement that's burdened with meaning, that's carrying some deeper meaning, the dance fantasia of her sequences, escaping into rhythmic mystery, a glimmer of fugitive feet on fleeing soil. So he's almost bringing another image of a dance fantasia, imaginative, colorful dance, again expressive of some deeper meaning. A glimmer of fugitive feet on fleeing soil. It's the movements of the feet are fugitive. They're there for 1 second and then it's moved and changed the next second. So we continue. Did you read? You read. Okay, B?
In the labyrinth pattern of her thoughts and hopes, and the byways of her intimate desires, in the complex corners crowded with her dreams, and rounds crossed by an intrigue of irrelevant rounds, a wanderer straying amid fugitive scenes. He lost its signs and chased each failing guess. Ever he met key words, ignorant of their key. A sun that dazzled its own eye of sight. A luminous enigma's brilliant hood lit the dense purple barrier of thought's sky. A dim, large trance showed to the night her stars, as if sitting near an open window's gap. He read by lightning flash on crowding flash chapters of her metaphysical romance, of the soul's search for lost reality, and her fictions drawn from the spirit's authentic fact, her caprices and conceits and meanings locked, her rash, unseizable freaks and mysterious turns.
Thank you.
Okay, turns.
I'll read Shraddhavan's commentary on this section. It's quite interesting. He says, it's all so complicated. The traces and signs which life has left behind her on her journey form a labyrinth, a maze where you can wander indefinitely if you lose your way. Perhaps they do give some hints of her thoughts and hopes, her intimate desires or her dreams. But these byways, complex corners and crisscrossing pathways, rounds crossed by an intrigue of irrelevant rounds, are misleading and bewildering, and Aswapati loses his way there, becoming a wanderer straying amid fugitive scenes as he tries to guess which way to go, chasing each failing guess. It might be this way, it might be that. He is really lost. There do seem to be some clues. He comes across key words which might have some significant meaning, but he does not have the key to decipher them. In the sky above this life world shone a sun that dazzled its own eye of sight. Rather than lighting up his way, it is blinding and bewildering. The sky itself is a dense purple barrier, like a hood hiding a luminous enigma, a glowing mystery. Here he says it is a dense purple barrier. It is really a barrier which does not allow him to see through it or to pass. Earlier, too, we came across the word purple as a characteristic color of the vital being, of the life being. At night, a dim, large trance showed to the night her stars. The poet seems to be implying that it's difficult to see clearly in that mysterious world. In his continued attempt to grasp the mysteries of that world, Aswapati finds himself as if sitting near an open window's gap, trying to read by the light of intermittent lightning flashes, chapters of life's metaphysical romance. Here, lightning might have been used as a symbol for intuition. In this context, the word romance does not refer to a love story, but to a tale of fantastical adventures, following one after another as in a medieval narrative. The tale that Aswapati is interested in is about the soul's search for lost reality and the mysteries of life's play. It is also about the fictions which he has imagined and tried to manifest on the basis of spirit's authentic fact, and about all her enigmatic games, life's whims and fancies, her caprices and conceits, her meanings which are locked as if deliberately concealed and kept secret, and her rash, unseizable freaks and mystery turns, those aspects of life which are utterly beyond the scope of reason and rationality. Here, Sri Aurobindo also uses the word metaphysical in a special sense. In philosophy, the term metaphysics refers to the use of pure reason to explore supraphysical realities. But when it is used as an adjective, we have to think of the metaphysical poets of the 17th century English literature. They were concerned with spirituality and mysticism, but they were also given that name because of the way they used unusual and striking imagery and vocabulary in what seemed to their contemporaries very fanciful and fantastic ways. The romance which Aswapati is trying to read might be like that, full of difficult images and words. But the topic of that romance is the soul's search. Those old romances were usually about a quest of some kind. In this case, it is the quest of the soul, which is hunting everywhere for the higher reality that it has lost by entering into the manifestation. Aswapati is reading chapters of life's metaphysical romance and also her fictions, her novels. But these are novels that are based on the authentic fact of the spirit. And then there are other things, her caprices, her whims, and her conceits, her forced bringing of opposite things together, her locked meanings, her rash and unseizable freaks, and her mysteried turns. A freak is something strange and abnormal, completely out of the ordinary. Life does not hesitate to use unusual terms that are difficult to grasp and understand. Aswapati is trying to read and grasp all these signs of life, but he can read only by intermittent lightning flashes. Nothing is clear and obvious. So we continue now. We'll continue. Artam.
The magnificent wrappings of her secrecy that fold her desirable body out of sight, the strange significant forms woven on her robe, her meaningful outlines of the souls of things we saw, her false transparencies of thought hue, her rich brocades with imaged fancies sewn, and mutable masks and broaderies of disguise. 1,000 baffling faces of the truth looked at him from her forms with unknown eyes, and wordless mouths unrecognizable spoke from the figures of her masquerade, or peered from the recondite magnificence and subtle splendor of her draperies. A sudden scintillations of the unknown, the inexpressive sounds became veridical, ideas that seemed unmeaning fleshed out truth, voices that came from unseen waiting worlds uttered the syllables of the unmanifest to clothe the body of the mystic word, and wizard diagrams of the occult law sealed some precise, unreadable harmony, or used hue and figure to reconstitute the herald blazon of time's secret things.
Thank you. is using different images here to express the same kind of mysterious character of this world that's expressive of some deeper meaning, but still kind of hiding the significance in the symbols with which it expresses it. And here he speaks of these strange, significant forms woven on her robe, as if this robe of the goddess of life, her outer dress, has strange symbols on it which he tries to read. Her meaningful outlines of the souls of things. So the deeper souls of things in this world are outlined in their forms, but it's a kind of a bare outline still that's not fully expressive of that soul. And then it's as if the beings are as if like wearing masks, or they're in a masquerade, hiding behind these outer forms which are even somewhat deceptive in their appearances. There's an interesting line. He saw her false transparencies of thought hue. Sometimes thoughts give the appearance of transparency reflecting some truth, but also that may be a false expression. And then towards the end, he seems to describe that sometimes something of this truth behind is flashing out, is getting expressed, and he's able to read something of it. And sudden scintillations of the unknown. Scintillations are like sparks or flashes of light. Inexpressive sounds became veridical, became true. These inexpressive sounds, all of a sudden he could understand something, the meaning within them. Ideas that seemed unmeaning flashed out truth. Voices that came from unseen, waiting worlds uttered the syllables of the unmanifest to clothe the body of the mystic word, as if like mantras expressing something of the deeper truth in their vibrations. And wizard diagrams of the occult law sealed some precise, unreadable harmony, or used hue and figure to reconstitute the herald blazon of time's secret things. Now, this herald blazon are these symbols that in medieval times these princely families would have, a kind of a symbolic design which would represent that family and that history in its colors, in its forms and designs. And apparently, if one sort of knew that kind of language of these colors and symbols, one could understand quite a bit about that family through their blazon, I don't know, through this form. And what I recall from Shraddhavan was that a herald would come in front. He would announce the coming of this prince or somebody, and he would be carrying this blazon, he would be carrying this symbol representing that family or that kingdom. Yeah.
We say that there are some symbols which also indicate the future. Those flashes where what truth, we also can see future in those in these flashes.
Well, that may be. Okay. It could be seeing future or the deeper significance of those forms. Continue. Oh, there one question.
When I go to this, how many parts and expressions can you look at? Then she was one, then you know that. You have to do all, there's always some learning history from receiving.
Yeah, life hides its deeper significances. That's what he's partly expressing here. It disguises its truths, and it's not so easy to read. And so, yes, it's understandable that we fail to do that and get caught in the appearances. Yeah, we have to learn these symbols. So we'll continue.
He moved and felt them as close real forms.
No. In her green wildernesses.
In her green wildernesses and lurking depths, in her thickets of joy where danger clasped delight, he glimpsed the hidden wings of her songster hopes, a glimmer of blue and gold and scarlet fire. In her covert lanes bordering her chance-filled paths, and by her singing rivulets and calm lakes, he found the glow of her golden fruits of bliss, and the beauty of her flowers of dream and muse, as if a miracle of hearts changed by joy. He watched in the alchemist radiance of her suns, the crimson outburst of one secular flower, on the tree of sacrifice of spiritual love. In the sleepy splendor of her noons he saw a perpetual repetition through the hours. Thoughts dance of dragonflies on mystery's stream that skim but never test its murmurs race, and heard the laughter of her rose desires, running as if to escape from longed for hands, jingling sweet anklet bells of fantasy.
Thank you. He brings us back to some more familiar scenes of nature, but also symbolic of something deeper, some deeper significance. Her green wildernesses and lurking depths, in her thickets of joy. Thickets are like kind of close cropped bushes, undergrowth in a forest. Thickets of joy where danger clasps delight. There might be a snake or something dangerous lurking in those thickets, or there might be some beautiful other creature. He glimpsed the hidden wings of her songster hopes, a glimmer of blue and gold and scarlet fire. It almost suggests here some colorful songbirds there hidden in the thickets. In her covert lanes, bordering her chance field paths, and by her singing rivulets, little streams and calm lakes, he found the glow of her golden fruits of bliss and the beauty of her flowers of dream and muse. Muse is like when you allow your thoughts to just roam freely here and there, relaxed. And then there's this other image, as if a miracle of heart's change by joy. He watched in the alchemist radiance of her suns the crimson outburst of one secular flower on the tree of sacrifice, of spiritual love. What this suggests is, on this tree of sacrifice, of spiritual love, of a representation of the spiritual love in which there is a complete self-giving, let's say, to the divine or of the divine. On that tree sprouts, blooms one secular flower. It's been changed by this kind of alchemist force into something more earthly, of earthly love or passion. Oh. Yeah, all of these colors, as he was describing before, they're all symbolic of some deeper significance. So in blue and gold, we know gold, supramental, blue of the higher spiritual mind. The scarlet fire might be something more vital, closer to the physical, right? So that's also there. There's also these dangers as well as delights that are hiding there. Could be. I think it's that this divine love is changed into a human love. This, on this tree of divine love sprouts, blooms this secular flower, because there's this alchemist energy going on that is kind of changing things, no? Well, that's what it seems. That's the pomegranate. Right? But then there is this, like this rose, this deep red rose. I think Mother gives the significance of like this human passion transforming into self-giving to the divine or something like that. It's also kind of a change. So that change can go both ways.
I would say that the deeper red was the more divine love.
I always think of red as physical. So it's coming. Red is normally symbolic of physical.
You have no religion, like a secular world, and then it's a white flower, then it blooms with this.
I don't think so. I wouldn't say that it's significance of white. I would say it's significance of worldly or, earthly. Normally secular, it's relating to something, non-religious. But in that sense also, it's sort of more, worldly, more at the more level of humanity. Yeah, it's all kind of mysterious symbols here that we can probably interpret in different ways and also get lost a little bit. Then there's another kind of interesting image of thoughts dance of dragonflies on mystery's stream that skim but never test its murmur's race. So the dragonflies alight, land on the surface of the waters, but they don't go, it's like our thoughts often skim over the surfaces of things, but don't really go deep to understand.
Dragonflies are letting their babies.
Skim is just to go over the surface. We can skim a book, we can just read very quickly and kind of go through it. Yeah. Tinika?
Amidst life's symbols of her occult power, he moved and felt them as close, real forms. In that life more concrete than the lives of men, throbbed heartbeats of the hidden reality. Embodied was there what we but think and feel, self-framed, what here takes outward borrowed shapes. A comrade of silence on her austere heights, accepted by her mighty loneliness. He stood with her on meditating peaks, where life and being are a sacrament offered to the reality beyond, and saw her loose into infinity, her hooded eagles of significance, messengers of thought to the unknowable. Identified in soul vision and soul sense, entering into her depths as into a house, all he became that she was or longed to be. He thought with her thoughts and journeyed with her steps, lived with her breath and scanned all with her eyes, that he might learn the secret of her soul.
Thank you. So Aswapati is moving in this symbolic world, trying to read her symbols, understand the significances of which she tries to represent and embody. And in this world, this life force is able to embody something more of the spirit than we can here in our world. Embodied was there what we but think and feel. So there it's given a more concrete form. Self-framed, what here takes outward, borrowed shapes. And then a comrade of silence on her austere heights, accepted by her mighty loneliness, he stood with her on meditating peaks, where life and being are a sacrament offered to the reality beyond. So here he's on the peaks of this life world, looking up towards the higher heavens to the reality beyond. And then he saw her loose into infinity, her hooded eagles of significance. So she's, this life goddess is sending up towards the hidden reality or the reality above her eagles of significance. Messengers of thought to the unknowable. And we see that he is identified in soul vision and soul sense, entering into her depths as into a house. All he became that she was or longed to be. He thought with her thoughts and journeyed with her steps, lived with her breath and scanned all with her eyes, that so he might learn the secret of her soul. Why don't we just read this last section, Sudanya?
weakness overmastered by his sin, he admired her splendid font of pomp and play, and the marvels of her rich and delicate craft, and thrilled to the insistence of her cry. Impassioned, he bore the sorceries of her might, felt laid on him her abrupt, mysterious will. Her hands that need fade in their violent grasp, her touch that moves, her powers that seize and drive. But this too he saw, her soul that wept within, her seeking vein that clutched at fleeting truth. He hopes whose somber gaze mates with despair, the passions that possessed her lunging limbs, the trouble and rapture of her yearning breast, her mind that toils unsatisfied with its fruits, her heart that captures not the one beloved. Always he met a veiled and seeking force. An exiled goddess buildings mimic heavens, a phoenix whose eyes look up to a hidden sun.
Thank you. In this first line, Sri Aurobindo goes back to the idea that B expressed earlier, that Aswapati is in a way kind of captivated and lost by this life world. With all her mysterious turns and disguises, he gets kind of caught up in that world. But perhaps not completely. He admired her splendid front of pomp and play and the marvels of her rich and delicate craft. And he identified with her, as we saw in the last passage just read before. But also he's able to see her shortcomings. Her touch, her soul that wept within, her seekings vain that clutch at fleeing truth, her hopes whose somber gaze mates with despair, and the passion that possessed her longing limbs, and the trouble and rapture of her yearning breast, her mind that toils unsatisfied with its fruits, her heart that captures not the one beloved. Always he met a veiled and seeking force. She's always seeking, striving to find, to express the reality, but can never fully do that, can never really capture it. An exiled goddess building mimic heavens. She kind of is building all these different forms to express the one, but they mimic, they're kind of substitutes, models, figures of the true reality. And she's like a sphinx whose eyes look up to a hidden sun. It's always kind of a mystery that is lurking there, and she can never really see the truth. There's always this question behind something that is missed. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what she said, but there is this, I don't know, kind of story, right, that you go to the it asks some question, right, and that you have to answer. Yeah, I think that's it. But it's also kind of always kind of a mystery that it doesn't. The truth is hidden in the Sphinx, right? It's not expressed. So we stop there for today.
A sphinx whose eyes look up the hidden sun.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.